Everyone believed that Justine Bateman was destined to become one of Hollywood's next big movie stars after her breakthrough role on Family Ties. But instead of cementing her place as a household name in films, she seemed to vanish from the spotlight for years. The reason behind her disappearance wasn't the usual Hollywood story of drugs, scandal, or reckless behavior. Instead, it was something far more unsettling. According to Bateman herself, her agents presented her with an ultimatum that shook her to her core. They suggested that if she wanted to continue working in Hollywood, she would need to alter her appearance and erase a part of who she was. Justine met with surgeons, she weighed the idea carefully, and she even considered it seriously. But ultimately, she made the radical decision to walk away from it all. When she revealed the full story behind that choice in 2021, her words sparked a movement, one that continues to influence Hollywood and its view of aging and authenticity even today. Justine Bateman was born on February 19, 1966, in Rye, New York. Her upbringing was anything but ordinary. Her mother, Victoria, had once been a Pan Am flight attendant. Though she was originally born in Malta, Victoria spent much of her childhood in England, and that subtle British sensibility found its way into the Bateman household. Justine's father, Kent Bateman, was deeply embedded in the entertainment world as both an acting coach and a theatrical manager. Their home was a revolving door of aspiring actors, scripts, and constant talk of show business. By the time Justine was just 2 years old, she was already exposed to rehearsals happening in her living room, watching people read lines, and observing the rhythm of auditions as if it were a normal part of childhood. Her family expanded when her younger brother, Jason Bateman, was born 4 years later. He too would go on to find stardom, and together the Bateman siblings became one of the rare brother-sister duos in Hollywood to both achieve success under the same roof. Their household carried a unique energy, a mix of ambition, chaos, and relentless drive that shaped both of their careers in lasting ways. By the time Justine was 4 years old, her life was already a whirlwind of change. The Bateman family moved frequently, following Kent's growing opportunities in the business. They spent time in Salt Lake City before eventually bouncing across different parts of California. In the process, Justine attended more elementary schools than most children do in their entire lives, 5 different schools in 3 separate states before she even reached the age of 12. That constant upheaval forced her to become a quick study of people. She learned how to adapt quickly, how to read social cues, and how to blend in no matter where she landed. On the outside, she seemed flexible and resilient, but beneath the surface was a child who never felt like she truly belonged anywhere. That pattern of constantly reshaping herself to fit her environment planted the seeds for a lifelong perfectionism and an intense desire to maintain control over her own life. The pressure at home was even greater than the instability of school. Kent Bateman ran his household like a training camp for future stars. By the time Justine was 8 years old, she and Jason were already on strict daily routines. But instead of chores or school-related tasks, their activities revolved around the entertainment business, script reading, voice exercises, and attending networking events with adults. Dinner conversations were not about cartoons, school gossip, or typical childhood interests. Instead, the Bateman's family table was filled with talk of acting techniques, career strategy, and industry politics. To make matters even more intense, Kent kept meticulous records. He would evaluate both Justine and Jason, rating their appearance, their confidence levels, and their progress. He even timed their practice auditions, comparing one sibling's performance against the other. Jason's career took off first. At just 10 years old, he landed a role on Little House on the Prairie. That success immediately raised the expectations for Justine, who was only 12 at the time but already burdened by the weight of comparison. She began feeling an overwhelming anxiety. Every audition, every opportunity seemed like a test she could not afford to fail. Public school added to the strain. While many celebrity children were educated privately or through tutors, her parents insisted that Justine attend a regular school to keep her grounded. In reality, it made her life even more difficult. Teachers often treated her differently, and her classmates teased her relentlessly. Some accused her parents of being fake. Others mocked the family's attempts to live like ordinary people. The cruelty of childhood bullying left deep scars. She missed out on birthday parties and sleepovers because other parents didn't want their children too close to Hollywood families. By the 4th grade, kids had invented a cruel game they called Hollywood Justine. They mocked her during school plays, mimicking her voice and making fun of her every attempt to perform. On the outside, Justine forced herself to stay calm, but inside she was crushed, always feeling like she was playing a role in her own life rather than being accepted for who she really was. That sense of isolation would follow her for years, resurfacing even in adulthood. At 13, the family finally planted roots in Los Angeles. They settled in the San Fernando Valley, strategically positioning themselves closer to auditions and industry events. Kent was convinced his children were at the perfect age to break into the teen television market, and he wanted no time wasted. Within 6 months, Justine signed with the same agency that represented Jason. Industry insiders even referred to them as a sibling package deal, which gave them both added leverage during negotiations. With this, Justine was officially in the Hollywood machine. Over the next year and a half, she auditioned more than 150 times, a staggering number by any standard. Kent kept a detailed log of every one of them, documenting casting directors' feedback, noting the competition, and listing areas where Justine needed to improve. Their home in Woodland Hills functioned as a constant workshop, with Kent hosting acting sessions in the living room that Justine was expected to attend, even though she was already working professionally. At age 15, in 1981, Justine booked her first real job, a commercial. It wasn't glamorous, but it was the beginning. Few realized how grueling the process was behind the scenes. California law required young actors to maintain good grades in order to keep working, which meant Justine's schedule was a non-stop juggling act. One moment she was filming, the next she was rushing back to class to hand in assignments. While most adults would have found the pressure unbearable, for Justine it simply became the norm. She learned to manage her time with ruthless efficiency, balancing school and auditions with a discipline far beyond her years. She attended Taft High School in Woodland Hills, where her talent in drama class stood out immediately. Teachers admired her natural stage presence, but socially, she never experienced high school the way other teenagers did. While classmates were attending football games and proms, Justine was busy on set or rushing to an audition. Friends saw her less and less, as weekends and evenings disappeared into work obligations. By the age of 15, she was already making serious career decisions, sacrifices that would later shape her perspective on fame and the reality of growing up in the public eye. Despite her determination, Hollywood was relentless. Between 1980 and 1981, she endured rejection after rejection. She auditioned for multiple TV pilots but was continually passed over. Casting directors told her she was too tall, the wrong hair color, or simply not the type they envisioned. Each no was more than professional disappointment, it also meant a financial setback for her family, who were deeply invested in her success. Yet each rejection toughened her, teaching her resilience in the face of constant dismissal. That same year, she landed a small role on Little House on the Prairie, the same show that had already launched Jason's career. While Jason had a recurring part at just 12 years old, Justine's appearance was brief, but it gave her invaluable on-set experience. She learned how to embody a character from a different time period, studying details like movement, speech, and body language. She watched veteran actors such as Michael Landon closely, observing their professionalism and learning how to navigate the demands of directors and crew. This role, though minor, laid the groundwork for the breakthrough that would soon define her. In 1982, at just 16 years old, Justine Bateman's career changed forever when she landed the role of Mallory Keaton on NBC's Family Ties. Originally, the writers had envisioned Mallory as a sharp, intelligent character. But during early test screenings, audiences responded with louder laughs when Justine played her as a little clueless. Network executives quickly pivoted, rewriting the role into the stereotypical ditzy teenage girl. The decision made Mallory wildly popular, but it also boxed Justine into a role she hadn't chosen. Ironically, while the public now saw her as a scatterbrained comedic figure, Justine was actually highly intelligent in real life, later earning a degree in computer science from UCLA. By 1984, Family Ties had skyrocketed into one of television's top shows. Within just 2 years, it climbed into the top 5 programs in America. Justine's on-screen chemistry with Michael J. Fox drew millions of viewers, and her salary rose to $10,000 per episode. Over 7 seasons, she would appear in more than 170 episodes. Yet behind the scenes, she struggled. The show leaned heavily on repetitive storylines, often centering on Alex, Fox's character, while Mallory was relegated to shallow subplots about shopping or boyfriends. Justine longed for deeper, more meaningful story arcs, but they never came. As the show increasingly revolved around Michael J. Fox's rise to stardom, Justine's role felt smaller and smaller.